Jumping is one of the funner things that you're going to do on a mountain bike. It really is going to link your trail together, allow you to get up and over obstacles, carry good speed, and just really bring the trail together. So one of the first things that you need to think about with jumping, just because it has a really high risk to reward ratio, is you need to think about progression. Don't jump in the deep end, jump straight into doubles and try, just throw speed at the problem. It really isn't a good way to go. So try learn the skills that are needed in order to jump, and then progress and build up nice and comfortably. So when progressing, it's a good thing to look for tabletops and doubles. The difference between the two is a tabletop is filled in. So for example, where you've got a kicker, something like here, and then it's nice and flat and you can ride straight over that. So it's a very low risk and you can build up and you can progress accordingly. So otherwise you get a double. A double's where there's a takeoff and then there's a gap and then there's a landing. So this one's quite a nice and safe one because they've filled in the back of the landing a little bit. So if you do come up a little bit short, which is the case, it makes it a little bit less easy and not as a higher risk. So doubles are things like this kicker here, that kicker there, getting all the way to the landing, but they are a little bit more high risk. So just be aware of going for tabletops first, I'd recommend, and then progressing up. So for example, in this section, this would be a great opportunity. Start with the smallest one, progress up, make sure that you're getting your technique dialed, and then move on to the next section. So when you're on a trail, there's going to be multiple different styles of jumps that you're going to encounter. So the ranges from a tabletop, which is one that's filled in, a gap jump, which has got a lip and a landing, and there's a gap in the middle. Then you'll get just maybe a kicker only, which you can launch either to flat. You get step down where the takeoff is above the landing, so you'll be jumping down. You get a step up, which is the inverse, so the kicker is below where the landing is, so you have to jump up. So there's just multiple different styles of jumps. You get hip jumps where you're going to be jumping and landing to your side, like landing, the landing will be at a bit of an angle sideways. So there's just multiple styles of jumps to learn. So just about getting comfortable in the air will get you used to and get you over most of those jumps. So another really important thing to think about while jumping is before you even get on the jumps is just about your bike setup. So most modern day bikes are pretty well equipped, but there's still a little bit more you can do. You want to ideally have a shorter stem and wider handlebar. That's going to give you pretty nice stability, especially while jumping. The next thing you want to think about is you're getting your saddle out the way. So it's quite hard to jump with your saddle all the way up, so a dropper post goes a long way. Just being able to get that down so that your body can move around nice and freely underneath you is definitely a big role, especially in the nature of jumping. The bike's gonna be right up and underneath you, and if that saddle is nice and high, there's a high chance of that ejecting you over the handlebars, especially when you're going up the kicker and you maybe compress your legs or there's no more room underneath you. So get your saddle out the way. Next thing, suspension, really important. Make sure that your sag is set up correctly, and then your rear rebound is probably one of the most important things while jumping. So making sure that your rebound isn't too fast, so it's not acting like a pogo stick, so it's not compressing really fast and it's returning really quickly. So otherwise what happens is as you hit the takeoff, there's a high chance that it can eject you over the front, so making you go over the handlebars. So one of the big things is it might be a root cause is if you are jumping and just feel like you're going over the handlebars, slow your suspension down, slow your rebound down, especially the rear rebound. It might help you out a lot with that. So making sure that that's set up correctly before you even get on the jumps, like I say, it can just be a bit of a problem. So something to think about. Make sure that your rebound is set up correctly, not too fast that it doesn't send you over the handlebars when you're learning to jump. The very first thing that you need to do in order to learn to jump is learn how to bunny hop correctly. So being able to get your front wheel up and then your back wheel when you want it to go up. So that's exactly the motion that we're going to be looking for off the lip. You've got two main jumping styles. One where you can actually use the bunny hopping technique and use that to be able to get that height. You can come into things a little bit slower and really make sure that you can get up nice and high, especially if you don't have the speed. If you're only relying on speed to learn to jump, so sometimes coming into a kicker and just pushing the bike down and pulling it up underneath you, it really limits how your jumping abilities, because it means you need speed to get over everything, and it doesn't really work so great on the steeper the kickers get and getting over those sort of things. It also limits how high you can go, because if you're compressing down and just pulling up, you're pulling the bike straight up into yourself, and when that saddle hits your bum, that's as high as you're going to go. So those are the two options of jumping styles. So I really encourage you to learn to actually get the technique down of getting your front wheel up and then your back wheel, and learning to jump using the bunny hopping technique. So the first thing you need to think about is learning to bunny hop correctly. Make sure you've got that down, and then move on and progress from there. So when you're coming into a jump, what's happening beforehand is really important. So as I'm coming in, I'm keeping, just having a look ahead, making sure that I know exactly where, if it's a gap jump, if it's a tabletop. So the first thing, I'm looking ahead, making sure, spotting my kicker, my takeoff, just so that I know exactly how I need to prepare, how hard I need to pop, if I perhaps need to scrub, if I'm coming in too fast. All these sort of things you need to think about before you even get here. So stuff like that, making sure that you're looking ahead, out of your peripherals, making sure that you know what's coming. When I'm coming into the lip, so as I'm coming off the kicker, I'm going to be doing a bit of a bunny hopping motion. But before I even get there, as I'm coming in, I'm compressing, I'm pumping the bike. So when I'm coming in, as I'm coming in before I even get to the kicker, I'm compressing, I'm preloading my suspension, so I'm compressing down as I'm before I even get to the lip. So I'm compressing before I even start going up the lip. So I'm kind of compressing just down, trying to get that compression going into the face of the lip. So I'm compressing down on the flat section before the takeoff, compressing, pumping. As I'm going up, I'm keeping my body nice and stable. And as I'm leaving the lip, that's when I'm doing my bunny hopping technique. So I'm kind of sinking, getting a little bit over the back, and as my front wheel's leaving, going up like that, I'm standing my hips up. I'm not standing my hips forward, so I'm not throwing my hips forward onto the handlebars and bring that bar to me. I'm standing my hips up. That's how I generate the height. It's exactly the same principle as the bunny hop. As my front wheel's going up, I'm standing up into the technique. So as I'm leaving the lip, I'm doing that bunny hopping technique. I'm going up and I'm standing upwards, and that's how I'm getting my height out of this technique. Now that you've got that technique down, so you're starting to finally get up into the air, you're starting to use that bunny hopping technique, jumping, getting up into the air. What do you do in the air? So you get a dead sailor, which is basically doing nothing, and you'll just be stable. You're just surviving all the way to the landing. So you'll be jumping, keeping the bike nice and stiff, not really doing much. One of the big things with jumping is anytime you get into the air, you never want to straighten out your arms and legs. Okay, so any times that you are straightening out your arms and legs, especially if your legs straighten out, it probably means you're getting ejected forward and you're trying to correct that. Even if you straighten out your arms, you really don't want to be doing either of these. So anytime you're jumping, you want to bring the bike up, absorb it, nice and relaxed, and just make sure that your arms and limbs are nice and bent, and that's going to prepare you for the landing. So never try not to, anytime you are jumping, never straighten out your limbs. If you see any crash videos, people going over the bars, you'll notice that their arms and legs are either straightened off the takeoff or somewhere along in the air. What I encourage you to do is to start to learn to do something in the air. I prefer, my personal one is just to start to do a little bit of a bar turn. So anytime I jump, I'll get into the air and I'll just turn the bar a little bit, just to kind of float and get comfortable. It takes my mind off worrying about just doing a dead sailor. So as I jump, I just do a little bit of a bar turn, and that starts to become a bit of a habit, and I stop thinking about everything else, and I start subconsciously doing the jump at hand. And I just worry about doing that nice little bar turn, getting the bike looking nice and stylish. It really makes a big difference to my jumping game. So anytime you're getting in the air, trying not to stiffen those arms, and just start to learn. You can do this with a small jump on a tabletop. Just getting that small little bar turns going really goes a long way. Now that you've learned to get into the air, when you're landing is the next thing you need to think about. So ideally when you're starting out with tabletops, jumps, what you want to do is you want to try land with both of your wheels at the same time. It just shows a good form of control. Ideally not landing back wheel and then front wheel. Anytime that you're dropping one wheel over the other, especially when you're learning, might show that you're out of control. As you advance, it comes down to landing. You can, especially with jumps that have got a bit of a steeper landing, you're trying to match the gradient. So what you're doing is you'll start to bring your front wheel down, and you'll put your front wheel down first and then your back wheel. But this is you putting it down, not involuntarily landing the front, not landing out of control with the front wheel first. You actually controlling it and landing and putting that front wheel down first. What this will do is as you get over the landing, you can pop that front wheel down, and that's just going to guide, and you can then control and put your back wheel down. Also, it's a great technique anytime that you're whipping. If the bike's out and you put the front wheel down first, the direction of the front wheel is going to guide and pull that back wheel straight and just lessen the load. Especially, it'll take a bit of strain away from your back wheel, breaking your back wheel a little bit. So get your front wheel down first, and that'll correct the bike, straighten it up, and pull you in the right direction as you're landing. So, but the first thing, anytime you are jumping, try land both wheels at the same time, making sure that your arms and legs are nice and relaxed so that you can absorb the impacts as you land. So your speed is another really important thing to think about when jumping. So sometimes whatever happens before the jump, it might be able to set you up nice and easy. You might not need to pedal into the jump. You'll have a lot of speed. The trail will allow you to generate a lot of speed, and you won't even have to think about the speed for the jump. Sometimes you might have to pedal beforehand. So looking ahead, making sure that you know whether you need to be pedaling beforehand, and then if you need to be popping, if you need to be scrubbing or squashing, these are all really important things, and your speed is going to dictate a lot of that. So if you're coming in too fast, you want to use that squashing technique to be able to absorb the bike up underneath you. It just allows you to carry that speed. You can even scrub off the lip just to maintain and carry that speed that you're coming in with if you're going too fast. If you're going too slow, sometimes you might end up casing. So as you're jumping off, you might not even make it to the landing. You might just make it right there. Make sure that your arms and legs are nice and relaxed to absorb that. So your speed is really important. Know before you even start jumping how much speed you need for that jump. It's another great hack is just riding with friends, learning to jump with people more experienced than you. They can tow you into the jump. It's often a great indicator of the speed that you should be approaching that jump at. Sometimes if you're starting out, you might not know, or just for a new jump that you maybe never done before, it really helps with the confidence just to know that one of the factors that you're thinking about is out of the way. So just knowing that you're going to have a good speed coming in, following someone else, is often a nice way to start to try new jumps as well. Also, when jumping, sometimes if you're riding a trail blind, so something you just got to be really aware of is looking for things on the takeoff. So sometimes you get ruts, rocks, roots, all these sort of things, and as they start to become a little bit more like prevalent, so you might see them, just be aware of that. So sometimes those things can really affect your wheels on the takeoff. So if there's, for example, a root or a rock on the takeoff and you come in and you hit that and it just redirects your back wheel a little bit, it might get you a little bit squirrely in the air. So just make sure that you're looking ahead at the lip as well, and if possible, try and avoid it. Sometimes with ruts, you don't have the option, so it's really important. Try not get out of it or cross rut as you're going up that off the takeoff. Rather stay in the rut and use that rut to jump. Don't try fight it. Don't try get out of it because, like I say, it can get you a little bit squirrely. But something to think about. Try not fight it. Rather relax, embrace it, and use it for that jump.